Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, how long will people stay angry about the Kavanaugh confirmation? Is there a Hogan effect? Predictions on the upcoming state elections? And is it better to be born rich or gifted? Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the Dean of Democratic Punditry, Sam Statland, Secretary of the Maryland Republican Central Committee, Mark Uncapher, Maryland Young Republican National Committeeman, Evan Young, and political strategist Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. For weeks, the struggle to confirm Judge Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court played out daily in the media and was more consuming than any scripted reality show could ever hope to be. On display for all to see was the raw political ambitions of both parties. Senator Chuck Schumer promised to fight the Kavanaugh nomination with everything he could, and if Schumer was the personification of Bill the Butcher, he underestimated his opponents Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump, and importantly Kavanaugh, who would not abandon the field of battle after his accusers had their say. Sam, there are those that believe that there is only one indelible truth out of this entire process, and that is our political hyper-partisanship has become a national disgrace. Will the parties pull back from the precipice that they've walked out on?
You know, Casey, it is a national disgrace. I just got back from spending 2 weeks in Africa. I was in several countries. And people knowledgeable about politics are saying, what are you guys doing over there? How do you run your government? Why is there such division within the United States? Why aren't things taking place? I personally find it very, very disheartening. I think it prevents our government, especially the Congress, from doing good work for the people of the United States in passing laws, rules, and regulations that makes things better for all of us for a rising society. And then, of course, that filters down to the state as well. It's just terrible.
Mark, did the Kavanaugh hearing cause regular Republicans, the anti-Trumpers, to move closer to Donald Trump, and what will it mean for the upcoming election?
We've seen, I think that polling data certainly confirms what the question suggests, is that a lot of Republicans and people, a lot of independents, were appalled by the process. And we've seen an uptick in the intensity of voting intentions among Republicans. But I have to say that I agree with Sam. It's a terrible place where we are in this country where the conversation is, I'm angrier than you are, and therefore I should be heard because I'm angrier than you are. I think it's really an unfortunate.
And when you get to the point where the angrier you are to drive out your base to vote, I mean, is that the motivator? How angry can you get to come out and vote against the other guy?
Well, today a poll came out from the Washington Post, ABC News, and out of it came that 51% of Americans are opposed to Kavanaugh. 53% feel there should be
Nobody believes
more,
it.
Wait, no,
Nobody believes it.
53% want more investigation, and 58% of women are opposed. What the poll also showed, let me finish, is that independents and women are swinging towards the Democrats. Trump has his base, and they're there. The goal will now be. That's what the poll said today.
This is just nobody believes the Washington Post anymore.
There's also polls last week that said
how
the
can you
opposite.
believe
Yes.
the Washington Post?
Yes.
There were polls last week that said independents disapproved of how both parties handled.
Yes,
Kavanaugh,
but independents are
disapproved by
swinging,
Democrats by
but
more.
Independents are swinging towards the
Depends
Democrats
on the
now.
poll you saw. I saw one that had the Democrat lead evaporate.
What this poll said today was 65% of Republicans are more likely to vote now because of this. 66% of Democrats are more likely to vote, they say. And independents, if they vote, are going to lean towards the left. I think that...
So there is definitely a blue wave here in Maryland. When you look just at the absentee ballot requests, the requests statewide are very, very high.
Sam,
double the last election.
Sam, I heard the numbers today. You look at what the returns are on absentee ballots and Republican returns are running ahead, Democratic returns are running behind. There has been a spike because of a particular candidate who has done a very active effort to increase the number of absentee ballots.
1,200 ballots as of today have been returned to Montgomery County directly from the Board of Elections, which is double the amount, same time for the primary.
Because
The
Republican
blue wave
absentee
is coming,
ballots have
guys.
been going to Annapolis, and in Annapolis, the board has had to take on new people, additional hires that they weren't planning because of the
Why
number
did
of...
they go to Annapolis?
Because that's the way the effort was done. And so basically, we're talking apples and oranges. The issue is, how are the parties returning their absentee ballots?
Well, the other
I
thing
think-
is who's going to get their votes out?
Who's going to get their votes out, and
Right.
where are they going to vote? I mean, I think the one truth is that the Kavanaugh hearings energized both parties,
sides.
but I think the Democrats were already energized, and the Republicans are now energized and will counter some of that enthusiasm.
This wave, I predict, will take Mark Elrich to victory.
Well, you can save this
the
for
general
save it for the next topic, Sam. Come on. How crazy is this world we live in, where each day the conventional norms are being turned upside down? This past Tuesday, my law partner, Bob Moses, returned from a 2-week trip to Morocco. Since cell service isn't the best in the Sahara Desert, he asked me what was new. I told him, guess what? The Washington Post endorsed Larry Hogan for a second term as Maryland governor. He almost fainted, had hell frozen over. Susan, you know my partner, Bob. He's like you. He's a true blue believer. What's going on in this election? Is there a Hogan effect?
I don't think so. I think that nobody was surprised that he got the endorsement of the Post. They have to endorse Republicans.
They have to endorse somebody?
Yeah, they have to endorse some Republicans. And, Hogan, as he goes, the state didn't fall into the ocean when he got elected last time. I don't think he is having that much of an effect on the elections. I think if there is a Republican who could have an effect on some elections, and that would be the president in some very conservative areas.
Let's stick to Hogan. Let's talk to Hogan about this. All right, Evan, in a commentary for Maryland Matters, Josh Kurtz wrote that suddenly there's a Republican exuberance everywhere. The long-standing narrative about the direction of this election cycle has been turned on its head. Tell Sam that he's wrong about the exuberance.
Well, Sam's always wrong, but the Hogan effect, it's not just for Republicans. We have Democrat state senators with authority lines from the state Democrat Senate Committee putting out mailers, not with Ben Jealous on it, but pictures of the Democrat senator in a tight race with Larry Hogan.
Not Montgomery County, though.
We're talking about he's running for the entire state, not just Montgomery County. So yes, not just Republicans, but Democrats too want to be tied to Larry Hogan. In the 6th district race, Larry Hogan's going to win that portion of the state. He's going to win the 6th district, and he's endorsed Ami Hoeber. Ami Hoeber's running in alongside Governor Hogan, while David Trone is making no effort to distance himself from Ben Jealous. It's an open seat. He's not running against an incumbent. I think this gives Ami a very good chance to win.
So, Evan, my son,
Yes, sir.
the words of wisdom from an old guy like me will tell you that this wave is here,
Not in Maryland.
and deep down, Hogan's coattails are not that deep, and that
see.
Montgomery County,
I want to go.
the Democrats are going to win in Montgomery County, and we are going to win bigger than we did
I will
during
give
the
you a call.
Well,
November
I want to
7th.
go.
We'll
I want to
talk
go
about
to
it.
Mark on this, because Mark, you look at this from a statewide perspective, since you're on the state central committee. What has been the effect of Hogan on your recruiting efforts and getting candidates to run in this election? And do you think that there are better candidates, and that you're going to flip some seats in this election?
Yeah, we have very much focused on the state Senate races, not frankly in Montgomery County. There are a number of districts that Hogan won 4 years ago. He's well ahead this year. 2 in Baltimore County, 1 in Frederick, 2 in Anne Arundel County, and another on the shore, and another down in St. Mary's. Some combination of those, I think, will produce that 5 additional Republican seats.
So, Sam, You know, the issue that I wanted to talk to you about, and you talk about this exuberance all the time, how there's this blue wave. Well, the fact of the matter is there's no uptick in enthusiasm for Ben Jealous. Why is your party going to come out in support of anybody?
I had 140 Democrats at my house this weekend, followed by the Blue Ball Democratic Party in Montgomery County, where there were over 400 people there. I have never seen such enthusiasm for Jealous and for Mark than at those two events, plus, of course, the other candidates in Montgomery County. And I want to tell you folks, Kathleen Matthews did one heck of a job in supporting both of them. I think you're going to see a lot of votes, Democratic votes, in this election.
I will tell you that Anthony Brown would die for the organization that's going on in this state this year. The party nationally is helping states out, and the state of Maryland got a small token amount of money. But they have people across the state, as do the Republicans, I believe. And Jealous has got 25 days. On the day we tape this on Friday, it's 25 days till election. Ben Jealous has got to work harder at getting his message out to the average voter in Montgomery
We have
County.
40 satellite offices.
Are you two saying that Ben Jealous is going to win the governor's race?
No, we're saying that it's going to be more competitive than people think it is. Maybe he has it, but he still has a shot. We have 40 offices, 40 offices throughout the state of Maryland, with thousands of volunteers going out there, knocking on doors as we speak, promoting the Democratic ticket.
And
with
this
our
guy,
leader,
this
Mr.
guy
Jealous.
isn't doing the same thing.
No,
his
they're
party
amateurs.
isn't doing the same thing.
Amateurs who are
got
winning.
one
What are they
candidate.
sitting on their
One
hands and not
candidate.
doing it? Oh, come on!
You know, the shame of it is, well, there's a good and a bad to this. Finally, the Republicans are getting their act together to try and get people who are reasonable, except in the Montgomery County for the executive race, to run for office, finally. And it's a shame that these guys are going to lose. I hope they stick around and run again, because they're not going to win this time.
Sam's talking like the party that has won. They're getting wiped out. Governor Hogan's still up by 20 points. I hope Ben Jealous gets his message out more because it'll make the lead 25.
Susan, one of the other races that is interesting, and you're going to have to explain this to me because it seems that Brian Frosch only has a 9-point lead over his opponent, and that's being viewed by the Baltimore Sun and others as a tight race. Is Brian Frosch in trouble?
No, he's not in trouble, but it is a tight race. The Republican Attorney General's Association has spent a lot of money
With more
on
to
behalf
come.
of Mr. Wolf, who is running as a Republican. He is the head of the Wine and Spirits Association, which I don't know if that's good or bad to come in.
I
and
know
try
that
to be-
association.
Yes, you do.
They represent the wholesalers
Yes.
industry.
Anyway, it is a much closer race than perhaps, Democrats would like. But Brian Frosch has done a lot, and he's now up on TV ads. He started the first criminal division in his office. He worked against pill mills. He worked against those colleges where you pay through the nose and you don't get any education. He has worked for the environment and for health care.
This isn't ad.
And
We're
his
not giving him an
consumer
ad time.
advocacy
We don't
grant
have
is
time to
terrific.
give him an
Well,
ad.
you asked me
I
the
asked you for an
question.
analysis, not to give him a
Well, no.
political ad.
Well-
Susan, Sam, I want to go to you. What other local races are you looking at?
I'm only looking at one race,
And who that is?
and that is Mark Elrich for county executive. He is going to win. We are going to have a new era because we the people, have a candidate to run a county that for so many years has been tilted towards the privilege. And I think it's time that we really get in there.
That Nancy Florine is running so that Mark Elrich has a chance to win?
Look, Nancy Florine should have run in the primary, but she knew she couldn't beat him. Now the rich folks come to her and say, Nancy, all this money we're going to give you, all this
Sam.
money,
Sam,
you run. I
Sam,
think at this
your
point in time,
candidate
today,
only
she
got
is
20
sorry that
your,
she got
your
involved.
candidate got
'cause
less than
she's gonna lose.
20% of the
Big
primary
time.
vote. Mark, what races are you looking at?
Two races, the Congressional District 6, Evan's already talked about it, and I think the Attorney General race is turning out to be a sleeper that may well be a huge surprise.
Don't you guys think you're gonna lose in District 1?
Notice that Susan was talking about all the stuff that Brian Frosch was doing in Maryland, which has been precisely the critique that he has, is that all he's done is focus on being a Washington partisan when people want Maryland attorney.
He's done an amazing job as governor.
All right,
But
well, we got to wrap
the
this
race
up.
I'm looking
Real
at
quick.
is Senate District 9. A woman named Katie Hester is taking on a Senate Republican. She has raised far more money, and she's doing a great job. It's
All right.
possible Katie Hester.
Evan,
Senate
County Council, District 2, Ed Emmett is going to be Craig Wolf. He's knocked on, by the time this is over, he would have knocked on, like, I think 10,000
All right,
votes.
we got.
Craig Rice, you mean?
Craig Rice.
Craig Rice.
When we come back from the short break, is it better to be born smart or rich? That doesn't seem like a hard question. Stay tuned. Whoa, we're back. Welcome back. So some of you in the audience will remember Senator Bill Proxmire and his Golden Fleece Award that highlighted wasteful government spending, like the $84,000 research project given to the National Science Foundation on a study of love. And then there was the $213,000 study given for the effects of cow flatulence on methane emissions. Now, if Senator Proxmire were around today, he might want to bestow a Golden Fleece Award on the study of whether it's better to be born smart or rich. Now, one of the conclusions of the study was that 64% of gifted children who had parental support, they graduated from college, while only 24% of the gifted children born to low-income families of fathers didn't graduate from college, excuse me. Susan, I know a lot of college-educated wastrels who were born wealthy, and I also know a lot of successful people who weren't born without any advantages. They never went to college. They're still successful in life. Isn't this study a bunch of poppycock?
Alec Ross, who ran for the Democratic gubernatorial race in the primary, had this phrase. He started everything out. Everybody has ability, but far fewer have opportunity. And that's what this showed. And it's ironic because in the conversations during the Kavanaugh vote, people talked about entitled people. People who are born rich spend more money on their kids and give them greater opportunities. And it makes a difference. I mean, I grew up poor. You don't have the same breaks. You hang around kids who are well off and they get the sports activities, they get the help on the tests, they get the best schools.
Is that why Blasey Ford was such a mess? Because she went to the most privileged
No,
girls' school in Washington, D.C.
Stay on topic, please.
That Holton Arms is the most
unfair.
expensive private school
That
in the metropolitan area.
isn't what
You're
I'm
saying that it was
No.
because of her background
Back to
that
the
led to her
topic.
false accusations?
Back to the topic of entitled kids. When you can afford to go to Prep or Stone Ridge or Holton Arms
or Holton
Landon,
Arms, yeah, or
or
Landon.
any of those, you have opportunities that a kid like I never had. We never once
Susan,
had a family.
did you ever see a kid at any of those schools that
Could
was
I
a
please
failure?
answer that question from both sides?
No, I want to go to Evan first. Evan, this study seems very trivial, and it seems just as Susan is suggesting, is that that we need to have studies to make sure that people are given opportunities, and some aren't deserving. That government is going to determine who gets opportunities and who doesn't.
No,
No,
that isn't what I said.
Well, that's what the study says.
What I wanted to see, and it wasn't included in there, these kids from low-income families that didn't graduate college, did they also apply for every possible grant and every possible scholarship? Did they get all the possible financial aid? Did they take the steps to try to even their financial
That's where
playing
it starts.
field?
Parents in those situations don't even know how
You don't
to
have-
do that.
The schools shove that information
Well,
down
they
your
don't.
throat. Yes, they do.
No,
No, they
not in
don't.
They did
rural
when I
Amer-
was there.
Not in rural America, they don't. In a lot of
Not
those
in Washington, D.C.
Google
either.
is a wonderful
You
thing.
think-
If
you
you've
think
raised
the
a child,
guidance
Google
coun- the
about
guidance-
No,
every
they don't.
kid has
And Montgomery
access
County
to
No,
School.
they don't.
Go to
You
the
think the
library.
guidance
Google.
counselors at MCPS are not giving that information to the students? That all
that's
they're
not
doing
what it
are
takes.
pushing condoms
They might
on
be
them?
giving the kids the information.
Huh?
They might be giving the kids the information, but that's not who needs the information. The information needs to go to the parents to support their kids. Personal experience. Up until age 9, I wore custom suits, called up and got my bike whenever I wanted it. Then my dad got sick. He had a stroke. I was very, very privileged. What happened then? We moved in with relatives, 14th and Euclid. But what happened to my family dynamic? My dad was paralyzed and couldn't work, and my mother had to support our family, cook and support my dad, and make sure I got to school. What didn't she have time to do? She didn't have time to go to the guidance counselor. She didn't have time to worry and take me to get my Eagle Scout thing that my dad had been working on. So I went from one extreme to the other extreme. And during high school, I was working to help my mother.
Sam?
I didn't have the time nor the energy.
You are
second.
proving the point that
No,
you
the
don't
point
need
is-
to be. You don't need to be directed by a government or a school or a
No, but
study
you need
to
a
be
mentor.
successful.
You need a mentor to be successful. You have to have somebody.
Well, you
that
must
takes you
have had
under the-
somebody.
Well, that's
But
what I
Sam,
had,
the
and
thing
it didn't
is-
come through the school.
All right, we
Casey.
got to
Wait a minute.
we got to wrap it up, Susan.
The
Thank you.
parents
I
have to be
appreciate-
involved
I
in this,
appreciate it.
Casey. It's the
Stay
parents.
tuned for parting shots. And now with parting shots, Sam Statland.
Folks, we have just a few weeks to go before the election. And I encourage everyone to please get out and vote. I don't care which side you vote on, but I want to make sure that in Montgomery County, more than half of our eligible voters at least vote for someone. I'm definitely supporting Mark Elrich. I hope you vote for him. But more importantly, please get out and vote. Tell your friends to get out and vote. If you have an absentee ballot, send it back in. If you early vote, early vote. All these rules and regulations and procedures and policies have been passed to encourage a vote. We need to vote. It's we the people that run this county. We the people. Be a person. Go vote.
Thank you, Sam. Mark Uncapher, your parting shot.
Well, let me pick up on what Sam said and Casey say that it's not too early to take a look at some of the ballot questions that are up in the election. Usually people wait to the last minute before they take a look at this. There are 5 at the state level. One is a good one with lockbox for education, which I would support. Another I would suggest you vote against, which is for same-day voter registration. And then there are 3 county ones that basically enhance the power of the county council, one on redistricting, another on staffing, and another that would weaken the Ficker Amendment would allow the council more latitude to increase taxes.
Thank you, Mark. Evan, your parting shot.
So we all know liberals are getting increasingly violent, but it's not just the fringe elements anymore. It's the mainstream Democrats. Eric Holder was saying the new Democrat Party is about kicking Republicans. Hillary Clinton said the time to be civil is only when they get back power. So it's a good reminder not to skip your workouts. Focus on your deadlifts, your squats, your overhead presses, bench press, and cleans. Although liberal men are generally physically inferior to us on the conservative side, they're much weaker. They do travel in packs. So you have to be ready for when the mob comes for you. Don't skip workouts.
Thank you, Evan. Susan Heltemes, your parting shot.
Oh my God, I don't even know what to say. 2 things. 80,000 people, according to the CDC, died last year from the flu. Go out and get your flu shot. Most insurance plans will cover it, and if you can't afford it, there are clinics, et cetera, where you can get your flu shot. It is best to get it by the end of the month, and you cannot get flu from dead virus, so that old myth should be kicked out. This week, though, a very alarming study came out of the UN, and it stated that we have about 10 years if we want to get a curb on climate change. Still, some don't believe it. Yet, if you will look at the hurricanes, they are coming more frequently, are more intense, and are causing more and more destruction. It's time in this country that we start thinking about the future generations and do something. We're the only country that dropped out of the climate accord. Shame on us.
Thank you, Susan. And you know, I was going to talk about the shameful decision by the Montgomery County Public School System to hand out condoms to any high school student that wanted them. I mean, just think about the message that sends to a teenage boy who's given a condom, says, you know, it's a rite of passage. You know, you need to have sex before you get out of high school. You need to have sex. Well, who's that boy going to have sex with? Is he going to have sex with a 15-year-old girl who wants it or doesn't want it? The school system needs to re-examine this policy and the message that it's sending out. It's a terrible message that we're all receiving. Now, unfortunately for Susan, and I normally don't rebut in a parting shot, but I wanted to talk about climate change as well, because the report said that Susan quoted, and I was thinking, I've heard this all before. Al Gore said we had 10, and an inconvenient truth said we only had 10 years before the world was going to come to an end. Well, that was more than 10 years ago. And now we have another study that says we only have 10 years before the world is going to come to an end. And its recommendation, stop eating meat. You can't eat meat. Well, I'm sorry. Tonight, I'm going to go out and I'm going to have a New York strip steak because I love beef. So the study, Susan, I'm sorry, the solution to global warming is to do just what we're doing and be conservative and take care of our nation and our economy. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken. I want to thank the panel for making this a lively evening.